It's got to be really crazy to sit there and have Jonathan Taylor have this tremendous, pretty much like MVP caliber season. Find yourself in a spot where all you have to do the last week of the year is beat the Jacksonville Jaguars, the sorry-ass, crap-ass Jaguars, and you're in the playoffs. You've overcome your mistake of trading for Carson Wentz like boneheads. You've been able to overcome that, get yourself into a spot where you got a cupcake game against a cupcake team. Just handle your business, get in, get out, and go to the playoffs. And instead, the Colts couldn't even get that right. They gagged in that last game of the year. That was embarrassing. They got beat up. The Jags won. The Colts failed to make the playoffs. Yeah. And I realize that the Andrew Luck retirement a few years back certainly caught this organization off guard. Understandably so. Like, Andrew Luck was the generational quarterback prospect. Andrew Luck was the guy that was going to be the Peyton Manning replacement, where to the point you didn't really think about Peyton Manning too much because you're too busy focused on Andrew Luck. He was going to be the Aaron Rodgers to Peyton Manning's Brett Favre, if you get my drift, like where you were going to be able to have maybe 2.5 to 3 decades of high-level, Hall of Fame-level quarterback play, and then it didn't happen. Luck leaves, and then you're kind of figuring out, well, what are we going to do now? And you're trying to take the different piecemeal approach. You bring in Phillip Rivers for a year. Then last year, you massively overpaid for Carson Wentz. I can't imagine being one of the decision makers here and ultimately general manager Chris Ballard and thinking to myself that I'm going to put myself in such a spot where I have to give up so much in terms of potential draft compensation for Carson Wentz. And I know that feels odd for some of you that know my history and have watched me for a long time, because I was really big on Carson Wentz coming out of North Dakota State in that 2016 draft. I was. And I was very, very big on him early on in his career. And let's face it, the first couple of years of his career, I had pretty good reasons to be really, really high on him. I looked like a genius. And then the past few years have happened. And like, I could stubbornly sit there and hold to like, hey, he was almost the league MVP in 2017, but then he tore up his knee. That's 4 damn plus years ago now. Like, you keep wishing and wanting and hoping for that to happen. It may never happen again, so stop expecting it. What you've seen out of Wentz the past few years is more the reality of who he actually is. The Colts got desperate, they got dumb, and they overpaid. And I know it seems like a lot of draft Twitter, a lot of NFL Twitter is really, really high on general manager Chris Ballard. And I got to tell you, why? For what? Losing to the Jags the last week of the year? Building a team that can make it to the wild card round? Whoop-de-fucking-do. That's not what you're in the game for. If anything else, though, I at least give Chris Ballard and the Colts organization credit. They realized their Carson Wentz mistake, and after a year, they were able to get somebody else to take on their mistake, in this case, the Washington Commanders. What a stupid name. That could have been so many other cool things. The Red Wolves, the Raging Senator Penises. Like, you could have been anything, and you chose the Commanders. It literally should have just called them the Washington Booty Pirates. Why not? Unbelievable. Just horrendous. But since apparently the Indianapolis Colts do not want to tie themselves to a young quarterback still, they went in a different direction, and it's hard to really fault them here going after and getting Matthew Ryan from the Atlanta Falcons. Atlanta tried to dip their hands and their toes into the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes. They lost, and when they lost Matt Ryan. Way to go, guys. Way to go. And, when you look at Matt Ryan, he certainly is an upgrade from Carson Wentz from 2021. They brought in some other pieces on the defense. Signed Stephon Gilmore and Brandon Faison and Rodney McLeod. Key loss for the Colts, though, was losing defensive coordinator Matt Eberflus to the Chicago Bears. This is the second straight season that the Colts have lost coordinator to an NFL head coaching job. Before that, it was Nick Sirianni, who went to take over the Philadelphia Eagles. At some point in time, you lose enough talent from your coaching staff, that can come back and bite you a little bit too. When I look at this Colts team, I certainly feel more optimism for them in 2022. They've got Matt Ryan. It's an upgrade over Carson Wentz, and a pretty sizable one at that. They've got Jonathan Taylor. When you talk about Derrick Henry and how fantastic he is, Taylor was really fantastic last year. He played like an elite back last year. This is a team that still has some really good pieces on defense, too, and their run defense in particular is top 10 in the league. I guess a pretty good run defense unit. So you've got a franchise-level quarterback, even if he's at the tail end of his career, he's still a franchise-level quarterback. You've got an elite running back, and you've got a damn good run defense. You can win a lot of games in the NFL with that type of combination. Concerns I have for this team, though, the receiving group. Yeah, you've got Michael Pittman. Yeah. You drafted Alec Pierce in round 2. Yeah. But it leaves a little bit of wanting, a little bit to be desired. I'm sorry. As does their pass defense. One of the flaws with the Eberflus scheme, this is just the cover 2 scheme kind of in general, is that when your team has a lead, that defense, you can let the dogs loose, so to speak, in terms of the pass rush. You get more aggressive, or you can get more conservative depending on what you want to do. You can keep things in front of you, or you can play the ball more aggressively. But when you're playing from behind, that defense doesn't do so well. And, at times that Colts pass defense could absolutely be had, which is why you saw them bring in so many pieces on the secondary. But you still got to get them to fit together. They still got to be able to work. In terms of the schedule for the Colts this year, I look early on. A key stretch there early for them could be another one of those early season slow starts that we've seen from the Colts in some recent years. Weeks 3 through 5, they host Kansas City. They host Tennessee. They go to Denver. Certainly not inconceivable that they'd be lucky to finish 1-2 in that stretch. They might even go 0-3. But talking about Tennessee, week 7, they come right back and they go to Tennessee to take on the Titans. If you're the Colts, you feel like if you want to win this division, you got to beat the Titans at least once this year. And you may want to go ahead and try and do it twice. And then week 16, you've got the Los Angeles Chargers. That could be a game with some playoff implications for one or both of these teams. And at least it's at home, like the Colts are going to want to try and take advantage there. I'm a little bit more up on the Colts' chances this year. I don't think they're a team that makes like a deep playoff run or wins a Super Bowl by any stretch of the imagination. But I'll take Matt Ryan over Ryan Tannehill. I'll take the Colts roster over the Titans roster, which means that I will take the Colts over the Titans in this division. I think the Colts will win either 10 or 11 games and win the AFC South and get themselves a home playoff game, which all intents and purposes would be a pretty good result for them in 2022.